Let's take a look at how the markets in Namibia have opened up for the trading week, checking in on the overall index to start off with. So we'll get that graph up on the screen. As you can see, 965 points, sitting slightly to the negative, but pretty much flat to the for the week. For the day so far, Namibian local index, which of course was the outperformer for March, sitting up by around 4%, and for year to date, the level sitting at around 7% gain. So far today, sitting flat, 287 points. And just a quick check in on how the local currency is faring against the US dollar, 921.97, and you're looking at weakness filtering through there, down by 1/3%. Joining us now on the line is RomÄ ã Mostert, Head of Research at IJG Securities, to unpack what we saw so far from Q1 from the Namibian markets. So Romé, thanks for joining us today. So as I said, the local index sitting with a 7% gain in local currency terms, in fact down 1.5%, but sharply outperforming, one might say, the overall index. And I suppose that's really dual listed stocks which weighed down on that overall index.
Yes, so basically, as you've mentioned, we've seen the quarter, the NSX overall index posting total returns of about -0.8%, while the NSX local index total return amounted to about 7% after a stellar performance in February, backed by a generally strong earnings season. In particular, FNB Namibia led the pack with a total return of about 12.5% year to date, followed by RX Properties at 6.8%, Namibia Brewery 6.2%, while Bitmest Namibia was the slowest performer at 1.2% after posting some not too spectacular results. Then from the NSX overall perspective, we saw the general mood of the JSE spilling over to the NSX, with insurance counters and real estate posting the most attractive returns on the NSX, in particularly Old Mutual and Vukile Properties. The banks also reflected some modest returns. And then the main drag on the index came in the form of consumer services, with Truworths and Shoprite pulling back from the highs recorded end 2012. And Anglo American also resulted on a drag on the overall market.
Yeah, I mean, that mining index was down 15% so far. If you look at that 3-month performance there, so pretty much Q1 performance. On the fixed income front, I mean, if you look at that, you can really see the weakness in the Namibian dollar filtering through, because the ALB was down 7% in local currency terms, pretty much flat. But what do you take out of Q1? What are your expectations for yields going into Q2?
Yes, so as you've mentioned, basically negative performance in US dollar terms, flat on the Namibian currency. We are actually not too bearish on the Namibian bonds. We still think the relative yield compared to the benchmark is fairly attractive, considering the fundamentals surrounding the Namibian government and their cash position, and we actually expect that spreads might still even narrow a bit in the foreseeable future. In general, in terms of yield, it's difficult to say. It's going to be a risk play that's coming through. But I think relative to the benchmarks, we remain bullish on Namibian bonds.
What about issuance? I mean, what are your views in terms of the issuance? We know that the calendar in terms of bond supply from the government is coming out in the next few weeks. What's the likelihood of them stepping up issuance in response to, I suppose, the strong demand that there has been in the market?
Yes, obviously there's a very strong demand, with local regulations requiring pension funds to hold a certain level of Namibian assets. What we've heard so far from the Bank of Namibia is that they've indicated that they will release their borrowing schedule calendar next week, and in the meantime they've said that they are looking at supporting the local market with some more regular issuance and also increased tender demand. So but as I've mentioned previously, we foresee that the Namibian government's strong cash position will see bond being very picky on their pricing, and we might even see a narrowing in the spreads relative to benchmarks.
Given the fact that when it comes to the equity versus fixed income space, we've seen a clear outperformance from the local index, as we are saying, 7% gain, whereas bonds have been flat. Are equities still the space to be in Q2? Do you see any outperformance coming from specific stocks?
Yes, if you look at local index, our preferred stock remains FNB Namibia, that has been posting some very good results, good earnings growth coming through, and then also sitting on a very attractive dividend yield. RX Properties has also, we also favor RX Properties as a stock, given some good GLA growth forecasted over the next 2 years. And then the generally a very good or healthy Namibian consumer shopping in Oryx's malls. So, and to a lesser extent, Namibia breweries can also be attractive should some of the issues with regards to the Sedibeng brewery and the JV being sorted out. So, F&B Namibia, our top pick in Namibian spectrum.
And in the listing space, thoughts that Banker Windhoek might come to the market and might IPO. Is that likely to happen anytime soon?
Yes, they've actually indicated to us that they intend to list towards the end of second quarter this year. So within the next 3 months, I suspect that we can see some action from their side.
Romé, thanks for joining us today. Appreciate your time. And that market on a 12-month basis is up 30%, that Namibian local index. So certainly a strong performance we've seen from Namibia. RomãःA Â Mostert, Head of Research at IJG Securities.